It's about time we talk about Blender's knife tool. What does it do? Sometimes adding edge loops and bridging stuff in Blender just won't cut it in some cases. The knife tool straight up cuts segments in your geometry to help you modify and clean up your model. You can access this tool in edit mode by hitting K or by manually finding it on the left panel, which will give you some extra settings you can mess around with. Click on where you want to start cutting to where you want it to go. Every left click you make is gonna make a new vertex, and it's going to cut relative to your screen view. When you're done with the cut, hit enter or spacebar to finish. On the other hand, after each cut, you can also choose to hit the right mouse button or double left mouse button to start another cut immediately and do multiple cuts in a single batch so you don't have to hit the knife tool over and over again. And when you're done with the entire batch, again likewise press enter or spacebar. You can press Ctrl Z to undo between the slices, but you can't redo apparently. When you're slicing, it snaps to edges and vertices by default. It's gonna highlight red when it's about to snap to a vertex and yellow for the edges. Holding down Control while slicing will ignore all the snaps, which doesn't really make sense to me, to be honest, because you can choose not to snap to anything anyway. You can literally slice from point to point by clicking on mid-air, so what's the point? The default mode of cutting with this tool only affects visible geometries, but if you press C, it's gonna turn on the cut through mode where it slices all the way through the model. And while you're doing this, you're gonna notice these little adorable vertex babies. Well, those are the vertices from behind the model where the slice is gonna cut through. And just like the grab tool, you can choose to constrain the cut within a specific axis by pressing X, Y, or Z. If you press A while slicing, it's gonna constrain the cut in a specific angle, which again is relative to the screen. You can adjust it to your desired angle by typing the number without pressing enter or spacebar. Do not press enter or spacebar while typing the number, or this will terminate the whole process. Tapping V on the keyboard will turn on X-ray mode, where it displays all the cuts you're making in front, so the ones behind the geometry will be visible. Tapping S on the keyboard will turn on the angle and length display for the cuts. And all these modes that I've mentioned can be turned off or on just by pressing each corresponding key repeatedly. You can check out what's going on with the settings down in the status bar. And again, if you manually click on the knife tool in the left panel, some of those settings are actually going to be available on the top panel. And in there's actually an extra option where you can limit the cutting only to the faces you selected. The slice tool will recall by default the last settings you put in. But wait, there's another tool that can cut lines in an object though. Not a lot of people talk about this tool, but I find it really interesting, so I want to share it in this video. If you go to the left panel or hold spacebar and then press 9, you'll get to the make line tool. Just like the knife tool, it works by clicking point to point to create segments. But for this tool, if you click outside the geometry, it actually creates a separate segment. That said, you're gonna have to click on an actual object to make a cut within the geometry. It will automatically snap to vertices, edges, and even faces. If you stop cutting somewhere in the middle of a face without closing the cut, the vertex will actually stay there, but it will end up being read as some kind of separate segment. That said, if you're gonna use this for drawing separate segments, right after clicking the first point, you can type down your desired length for the second point. You can also choose to make it snap to increments of the grid. You can also automatically make faces if the drawn segments are closed, which kind of reminds me of SketchUp. But wait, I almost forgot to show you this trick for the knife tool. If you create any type of curve and select it together with your model, and just make sure your model is active or that it's the last one you click and it's highlighted yellow, go to edit mode, click on mesh, and click on knife project, and that will actually project a cut of that curve to your model. Pretty awesome, right? And again, this cut is based on the angle you're looking from, so be careful how you navigate this. But of course, we cannot learn the knife tool without knowing its subtool, the bisect tool. You can access this by long pressing on the knife tool on the left panel, and there you go, it pops out. Or you can hit mesh, and there you can find it too. So to use this, you gotta first select the segments or faces you want to bisect, and what you want to do this time is press and drag the left mouse button to where you want the cut to happen. If you want this to face upward, you usually have to click from left to right, though that won't really matter because we're just slicing anyway. If you expand the operator panel here while you're in the middle of bisecting, you can adjust the plane pivot and its orientation, and you can even clear one of the sides to keep the other and even fill the hollow gaps between them. By the way, you can also access the bisect tool by right clicking when you're in edge selection in the edit mode, or by right clicking and pressing I. Don't forget to like this video, and in the next one I'm gonna babble about cutting geometries using the Boolean modifier. Subscribe to the channel if you want to.